I'll go ahead and admit it. He was my teammate at IC Norcom, and my other co-host joked me about I was a bench rider, but I always tell people the reason the first five was so good, and he was one of the first five, because they had to play us every day in practice. That's why they were so good. Do you agree with that, Buster?
Well, to a certain point, I agree with that. But yeah, I don't know if we were the first five so good. We were the second five. Well, first of all, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Leah. Good morning, Slim. Good morning, Carolyn. Thanks for having me on. Good morning. I'm saying good morning. Yeah. And but I can't say that they were, because keep in mind, Slim, you and I sit on the bench together for a while, and Archie Saxon.
Yeah.
So when I became part of the first five is when near the end of the season. So you're right. I agree. They were good because we scrimmaged them really well. We made them good. We were fighting for a position. And then when I began to start, then we went on to meet success also. So yes, we had some good times in those days sitting on the bench and looking forward to getting into the game that we never got in.
We were ready. But anyway, thank you, Buster Nelson is here this morning. He attended IC Norcom, class of 73, and also Salisbury State University, majored in business administration, 1977.
Correct.
1977. And by the way, he's a member of the Hall of Fame of both of those institutions, IC Norcom Hall of Fame and Salisbury State Hall of Fame. So I guess riding that bench, he learned something.
You taught me a lot.
He got some skills there, but anyway, but now he's agent and CEO of State Farm in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And we just wanted to have him come on. You know, Coffee Talk, we all about, by the way, to my fellow host, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
We want to make sure y'all know that
where's my Yeti cup?
But anyway, we wanted to have him on because we, Portsmouth Coffee Talk, we like to feature Portsmouth-born residents or people that have some kind of effect in the city of Portsmouth. And Buster being born and raised here, he grew up in the Lincoln Park section. If people in Portsmouth know about the areas of Portsmouth, Lincoln Park was one of the many public housing areas that we had in the city of Portsmouth. And Lincoln Park, like all our other African-American neighborhoods like Truxton and Mount Herman and Cavalier Manor, it was like a village. It was like we all work together and families work together. And I want to ask you, Buster, what, coming up in your neighborhood, we all had influences around us on our parents. We were with our parents, but we were around a lot of people in our neighborhoods a lot that sort of pushed us or influenced us, even though they might have been Joe from the block, but they were serious about the young people coming up and trying to encourage them to do things. Did you have some influences like that coming up out there in Lincoln Park?
Yeah, did I have influences? Yes, I had a plethora of influences. But before we start, can I just say three quick shout outs? First of all, I would say good morning to my mother, who's still in Portsmouth. Good morning, Mom. I'm up and I'm on time. Also, I want to say good morning to my daughter, Brandy Francine Nelson, who lives in Barcelona, Spain, and who's listening to us from Barcelona, Spain.
Amen.
Love you, baby. And also a shout out to the Nelson and Prunty crew. Good morning, fam. Love you. Okay. Now, for the influences in growing in Lincoln Park, then the phrase wasn't chic or wasn't popular that it takes a village to raise a person. And of course, we have villageology in us, in our growing. Humble beginnings, we have expertise, but we have abundance of love. In the 60s and 70s, the emphasis was getting a high school degree. And going on to college, matriculating to college, but in the 60s and 70s, because most of the parents who lived in that community did not have a high school education. So the emphasis was getting a high school education, and that was that transcended from your older siblings, or which I'm the oldest, my cousin Tonio Stevenson, and then of course you had the more I would say the teenagers of those times. They were involved in sports, and they would tell us how it was like to play sports. And so they emphasized the importance of education. And most of the time you saw it by every day. When you saw the way we were living every day, and we saw what people would say, and they would use some negative motivation. Son, please don't be like me.
Exactly.
You want to be different.
Yeah.
I had a family early. I love my family, but I had a family early. Therefore, I can't provide for my family the way I would like. You had quite a few single parents there. So that, and we're encouraging. And anytime that we were involved in any endeavors, even any endeavor we're involved, people were encouraging us to be better than the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
Do your best. And so Lincoln Park was a place that there was abundance of love, and we were all for one and one for all. And of course, and I was the one to belabor this point too long, is that we had come from Lincolnsville. So we were moved up from a place where Lincolnville were rat infested.
Mm-hmm.
It was an area that was in outdoor plumbing. So when we moved to the project, I often tell people we were so poor they tore down our house and built a project. And so we lived in Lincoln Park. So that influenced the village influence of everyone, one for all and all for one, encouraging each other. So when I say any one, yes, it was a whole community as one.
Yes.
But I know I want to emphasize there's one person that was very instrumental. There are many instrumental. But I was thinking about that, is that futuristic being a business owner, my buddy Barney Stevenson.
Yeah.
Your Barney, late great Barney. He was very, very influential in myself and most of a lot of kids, because he coached us in basketball, coached us, and he was our coach. And so, but one thing about Barney, one thing he was influenced by his family. Of course, we had blue collar workers in Lincoln Park, urban blue collar workers. But his father was a bank teller in the 60s.
I didn't know
his
that.
His father went from being a custodian in the bank to a bank teller.
Wow.
And he lived across the street from me. And every morning I would watch Mr. Stevenson. He would his work attire. He would wear a white shirt and a necktie and have a briefcase. And I would stand on the porch and watch him. And I would say, I want to go to work looking like that. It was not anything wrong with the way that other fathers went to work, the way they were dressed in their work clothing. But I wanted to look like Mr. Stevenson. He was the only African-American man I know that went to work with a tie and shirt. Wow. I said, that guy's telling people what to do instead of telling him. So I gave you the long way home to that question. But those are some of the people that influenced me growing up in Lincoln Park. In addition,
and that's what I was looking for. And you mentioned Mr. Stevenson, and it was a lot of other influences out there that probably encouraged entrepreneurship. You know,
definitely.
I spent a lot of time out there, and I remember when we called them frog, but it was
yes. Frog. Oh, you talking about entrepreneurship in Lincoln Park? The Candy Lady, that's entrepreneurship.
That's right. That's right. That's
the
right.
Candy Lady was entrepreneurship. And we can say the bootlegger, that was entrepreneurship. I mean, because during those days, we look at the business, the corner store. The person ran the corner store. That was the ultimate entrepreneurship. And of course, Roger Funeral Home was on the corner of Deep Creek and Columbus. But you had like you said, you had the people who sold candy or people who sold things legal and illegal. That was entrepreneurship. So there was some influences also. And there were some things on what to do and what not to do. Because it can be positive also as negative as positive also.
That's right. That's right.
But it was all in love, it was all part of life. We did what we had to do to get by.
Yeah, and you take that and couple that with when you got to the point where you got to IC Norcom and the influences were in every classroom and walking the halls down there, and coupled with that, and then being on the basketball team, learning how teamwork and how to work with others, towards a goal. That had to be something that sort of helped you. It was taking you down the road to where you are now.
Well, that Greyhound pride, first of all, started. I guess I came out the womb a Greyhound. And as I always say, I'll be a Greyhound from the womb to the tomb. I'm a Greyhound from the womb to the tomb.
That's right.
So I came out the womb a Greyhound. I mean, my mother was a Greyhound, my auntie, my uncle, And of course, that was Greyhound pride. My cousin, everybody was a Greyhound. And we would stand on the basketball court. Leroy Coker, Bonnie Stevenson, John Watler. I mean, those Herb Ballard, those guys who played sports would tell us what happened at Norcom. And we were like at their feet listening to their stories. And not stories, but the information. And we would see Norcom play. I tell people all the time, I tell the kids in the area, when I was growing up, I had 2 goals in life. To get a pair of Converse, Chuck Taylor All-Stars, and play basketball for IC Norcom. Those are 2 things I wanted out of life. And thank God I didn't achieve those. But it's saying that, Slim and Leah and Colonel. So it's transitioned to high school, and I couldn't wait to walk the halls of IC Norcom because I heard so many great things that was happening there. Leah and I were chatting before we came on about the classes. So Norcom, the pride of Portsmouth. And so you see them walking down the hall. But think about it, at IC Norcom, the pride, the Greyhound pride that we have, it gave, African Americans in the city of Portsmouth that pride, how we're connected. And it was pride in everything, not only the basketball team, the orchestra, the chorus, the track team, the puzzle team, no matter what team bad, the cheerleaders, even in classes, I mean, the glee club, the Tri-High Y, anything you participated was pride at IC Norcom.
That's right.
That pride was established. You hear me? I get excited thinking about it all over again.
I know.
And that pride was instilled, that Greyhound pride, and it taught you. And then the teachers, they were so influential and so dedicated on, also determined. But you know what I think about now and reflective is that if you think about this, it wasn't the society we live in there is very integrated society. Okay. We came through in a segregated society.
Yes.
So those teachers had not entered into an integrated society, but they had the foresight to prepare us for an integrated society that they had never lived in.
That's right.
When I think about that, I say, wow. It's just very, very astonishing that they had the foresight. They knew what we would need to make it in society, and they were determined we were going to get it.
That's true. That's very true.
So when you walk in the halls of Norcom, it wasn't just like, and of course, I think that pride also transcended because quite a few of the educators graduated from Norcom also.
Yes.
And they lived in the community, lived in the area, and they knew our families. So as you said, walking through Norcom, that pride and that sense of achievement and accomplishment, it was instilled in us that no matter your race, no matter where you're from, no matter that, you can make it in this society, and we're going to make sure you make it. We're going to make sure that you're successful.
One thing, and I'll let the host get out.
No, you go ahead.
You made that point right there, and that's a good segue into what I had stated on one of my posts. That you had to make that transition from an all-Black basketball team, and you said that our teachers prepared us for what we were facing. Going to Frostburg State, only three at one point, African Americans on that. So you had to make from being an all brothers team.
That's true.
Being one of the only three out of it's like 15 players.
Correct.
So you just answered that by saying the teachers prepared you for that transition, because before that you hadn't, except playing, your opposition, Wilson and Western Branch, integrating during that time. That was your experience, that kind of environment.
Well, as I said, and it started with in Lincoln Park, and then it was a building upon I started from if you take my hands away, I can't talk. so we built upon that from Lincolnville to Lincoln Park to IC Norcom. So then transitioning and matriculating at Frostburg State, I won't say thrust, but I was thrown I always tell people I'm from majority, not only from coming from P-Town, and you come from the Hampton Roads area, is we have one of the largest, I think in the state of Virginia, Hampton Roads area had the largest population of African Americans. So that's what we grew up in that. And we were able to function in a society, to have pride, and to function every day without integration and segregation. So now I'm in a situation now because I tell people when I went to Frostburg, I couldn't tell you anybody white that I knew that was a friend of mine. So now it's the opposite. I'm in a situation, an environment where now I'm in minority. Really a minority.
Right, right.
Because we had like maybe 4,000 students there, and then but 200 African Americans, and most of the African Americans came from the inner city of Baltimore, DC, and then scattered about throughout, and very few from Virginia. So now, when I'm thrust in that position, I'm not sure thrust, but now, but my main goal was, okay, I could draw from the thing that I knew I could survive in Lincoln Park taught me survivorship. I know I was, and all other attributes. So then now I see Norcom pride. I can excel on any level because I've been prepared by my educators. I'm a competitor. And so now I'm determined now that regardless of the situation, I have the ingredients. I have the makeup. So now all I need to do is show up and show what this is all about.
Exactly.
But it was different though. I must say I learned a lot. I tell people two things I learned when I first stepped on campus was there was a game called lacrosse and there was a dish called lasagna. But it was with, I met that with a challenge and it wasn't challenging. I met it with the challenge. But as I said, I really draw my IC Norcom, Lincoln Park, and Portsmouth. I mean, we know P-Town, you throw us anywhere, we're gonna throw us, we're gonna come out. We're gonna make it.
That's true.
We're survivors. We're survivors.
So who was your coach while you were there?
At Norcom?
At Norcom.
First year, well, head coach the entire time I was there was Slim and I was Coach Bobby Baker.
Bobby Baker,
Sticky,
yes.
the late Robert Sticky Smith had left the year before.
Right.
And we don't know whether we had a basketball coach or a football coach that was Slim. Slim, you tell him about this? Slim can tell you why I said that.
We had this drill, you know, because players, we had this drill that he would roll the ball down the floor, and two of us had to go for it, and whoever came up with it, you know, you just had to outdo the other guy. And most of the time we were basketball players. You either had the pure basketball players or you had those football basketball players.
Uh-huh.
I had this up with one of those football players. That, you know, so the drill was to toughen us up, I guess, you know. Dive on the floor, body to, you know, whatever you had to do. So game time, you would do the same thing, but it was fair, but it was tough. It was tough, but it created endurance in us, you know.
You know, speaking of that drill, I remember we had another drill. I didn't there the point too long where he would take the entire because we're like what 12 on JV and 12 on varsity, so 24 of us. We go to center court. He would throw the ball in the air, and 24 guys, one person got to come up with this ball. And you stayed out there until you got the medal. And Slim said, yeah, football players. And so Vernon Lewis, football player, Mule, right? Yeah. So he throws the ball in the air. My brother, I mean, we both weigh 45 knitted. We both weigh maybe 135 pounds soaking wet. Yeah. And Mule probably was packing like 180, 190, 180, then muscle. Football player, and throws the ball in the air, and my brother comes and Mule gets at the bottom, and Mule lifts the ball up and lifts my brother with him. Coach Baker said, wait a minute, give it to Nelson, My brother said, I'm not gonna let that ball go because I'm not going back in. But you're right, we were with the football players, and some of the notorious guys like Charles Blake and people like that, we didn't want to be against.
Yeah,
there were good times though. There were good times. So Coach Baker was our basketball player, but you know, it was the first time, or second time, because Coach Hopkins, who was not African-American, was the JV coach. I didn't play my freshman year, so he was a JV coach. And he transitioned to Wilson the following year, so Coach Swab became the JV coach. And I played under him as JV and then played again as varsity when Norcom was my senior year. So Slim and I played together under Coach Baker.
Slim played the bench, of course, but anyway.
No, you know what?
Let me get beyond that.
Rumor. Let me dispel that rumor. He makes you guys think he did get. If he played, he makes you think he did not play at all. That is not true. He doesn't give himself enough credit. I think did we play JV together, Slim?
Yeah, we did play JV together, and I did. We started then.
Right.
We were the
Okay.
first
Okay.
time.
See, he now the truth comes out. See, when
Yeah, the
someone
truth
can
comes
tell
out,
the
that's
truth,
for
see,
sure.
I'm not gonna steal his thunder. I'm not gonna steal. I'll let him stay with that. But our junior year that was an interesting year. That was an interesting year totally though with our team. That was an interesting year for IC Norcom and for everyone.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
Because that was the year of
yeah,
the boycott. That was your Slim senior year.
yeah,
right. And the
defend Slim.
boycott. That's right. So
It almost ruined the team. But
it almost ruined everything.
It did. It did. You know,
Uh-huh.
the pushing through that taught us a lot also.
Right.
Because
Right.
you're talking about that. Now that's when the Norcom pride stood. There are 2 times that I saw, in all time there was pride, but when they staged the boycott, and you have to give, and I have to give props to people, David Sweetwolf Simmons. I mean,
Yes.
he led in a time where he was took that leadership role.
Right.
And that was
right.
a lot to take on.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of to assume a large responsibility. And we as students didn't have really any, when I say the word guidance like that today, we were just going by, okay, this is what we should do because this is the school we love best.
Mm-hmm.
But it was challenging. I mean, it's a little known fact when you go behind the scene. It was challenging for the basketball team because the boycott started in December of 71. You remember, Slim? We didn't start this year boycotting. We started December 71, which is the height of basketball season. And in the state of Virginia, in order for you to play a basketball game, you must be in school the day of the game.
Exactly.
So consequently, we had to cross the boycott lines to go to school in order to play.
Uh-huh.
So we felt like we were betraying our fellow students. They're out there trying to say, and we want to go play for Norcom.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a interesting time. That was some interesting times during that boycott years. There was a lot of pride was exhibited during those times also.
one other funny thing during that time, our coach Baker got the players around doing the boycott, and before practice, he gave this long speech about blackness and all that, because he was trying to, encourage us, I guess, in a way. Gave this long speech about blackness, and then at the end it said, and I'm with you all guys, and if you all want to walk out, I'm with you. Go ahead and walk out. We all looked at each other and said, okay. We all got up and got ready to walk out. He said, come back here. Yeah, that practice. I did. He thought we were going to say, no, coach, we want to play. Go out there and stand on that line. And, but I guess, he wanted us, he was just testing us to see where we were. But he did run us. We didn't practice that night. We just ran.
He was notorious for that. Karen, I'm sorry. But think about that also with that pride, that something we always talk about, the students boycotting and us, how we participate in the boycott. Think of the teachers, the educators there.
Yeah.
The one who, first of all, the ones who had graduated from Norcom. Norcom meant the same to them as it did to us.
Exactly.
Those who taught.
Exactly.
So they could not verbally speak, and we were speaking for them.
Right. Right.
And we could see in them where they were silent, but they were encouraging.
Right.
Yes.
But I'm sure it had to be difficult for them because I'm sure we know they had the same pride. And then they had to educate during those times. So they had their ways of letting us know that they supported what we were doing. And that gave us encouragement also. So not only were the students boycotting, but the teachers in their own way were boycotting also. They're saying that we're with you. And so, but they still emphasize that, but you must get that education.
Right.
Yeah.
This is good. And if you really love the school, you still have to educate yourself, because you're going to become, like we all are, a product of IC Norcom.
Exactly.
And this is what we produce here at IC Norcom. So that was a two-edged sword we were cutting with during those times.
Colonel, I think you had.
Yeah, I got a couple comments.
Go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, you know what? And as I'm listening to you, and you talk about the village and the upbringing, the influences, I'm reminded that your influences impacted on you and taught you that where you start, you don't have to finish.
Exactly.
And that's key. And the second piece is that if you talk about when you talk about the boycotts, let the listeners know first why was the boycotts coming in the first place. They may not know, but then that is probably a precursor to what we call social justice today. That a lot of these young folks still don't understand why.
Exactly.
Until they are stopped out here and almost lose their lives or lose their lives for a $3 light bulb that's out.
Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, first of all, that's a good point, Counter. Thank you for bringing that in. And well, first of all, during those times, you had segregation. So African Americans went to schools which named after African American. Israel Charles Norcom was an African American educator. And so then you had the white schools, you probably know most of those may be named after the educator or area where it's located. So you had your Crestwood, your Norcom, Booker T. Washington, those schools. So now there's a transition that's happening. All of the schools that were African American were being changed either middle school or being closed.
Exactly.
They're closing these schools. They're closing Crestwood. They're closing Carver. They're closing Huntington. They're closing the whites, but they're leaving Churchland and in Portsmouth, IC Norfolk. But Craddock was not closing. Woodrow Wilson was not closing. So they were closing schools. So they came out and said, okay, we're not gonna, I think they tried, I guess they gave us an olive branch, I guess. Or either they closed the school or changed it to a middle school. So I guess they handed us an olive branch. And I think that's what was happening. But history is indicative of the fact now that olive branch really was in our favor. But then I say that, if I digress, is that they were closing the schools and they said, well, we would change IC Norcom to a vocational technical school.
Right.
You may keep your school, but you have to take a vocational class or of that nature to attend. But all the other schools, so we were like, wait a minute. And then I think, Slim, if I'm not correct, I remember the history correct, I'm not sure if they were going to keep the name or change the name. But they were taking our school, the Norcom that we knew. That's the boycott. You're going to change this to a vocation. And we said, why are you taking IC Norcom? You have Woodrow Wilson, you have Craddock, you have Churchland, and then other schools in Portsmouth. That was the only schools in Portsmouth at the time, am I correct, Slim, Leah?
Churchland, Wilson, and Norcom. And
Craddock. So why don't you take one of their schools? Take one of their schools. Why are you taking the African American school? Of course, then it was black then. Why are you taking the black school in the 70s? That was the word. Why are you taking our school? No, we're not going to stand for this. So thus the students boycotted me. We didn't go to classes. We stayed in classes. And I mean, we stood across the street. They even sick dogs on us. And so, as you said, social justice had the media. Had we had social media as now, that would have been really, really popular, been televised, and it would have been worldwide news. And we did have a person come in, Ben Chavis, who was part of the Wilmington 10 and went on to become president of the NAACP, came down to give us some guidance in that. But that's why that's the boycott.
Yes.
And as we, James, how much time are we looking at? 2 minutes?
Yeah, let me step in and just say, we're going to leave the radio, but we're going to continue on Facebook Live. And I just wanted to thank all the listeners on WGPL 1350 AM for listening up until this point, and stay, everybody watching on Facebook Live, stay with us, because we will continue our conversation with our special guest, Buster Nelson. And before we leave off, and I think the bishop will come on and close us out, but I just want to say that before we had to stop and do that. And I think the Colonel, you want to?
But before you move on, and as we talk about this Norcom Pride, we have to highlight our person of the day.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Go ahead.
And it gives me great pleasure in all of this spirit and this love and this Norcom feeling that we're getting on this Monday morning after our great Greyhound walk around. It gives me great pleasure in announcing that our person of the day is none other than Mr. Lindell Wallace. Mr. Wallace entered the Portsmouth school system at Riddick Weaver in 1963 as a 5th grade teacher. 3 years later, in 1966, he became an assistant principal at Riddick Weaver. And in 1972, he became an assistant principal at Churchland Middle, then known as Churchland Junior High. And they brought him into Churchland Junior High when the students from Jeffrey Wilson were assigned to attend the school the following year. They needed to see a friendly Black face there, so they brought Lindell Wallace in. In 1974, he got a job at Ford, where he stayed for 4 months when he was called back to the Portsmouth school system for a position at IC Norcom as an assistant principal. And of course, he accepted that offer. In 1978, he was assigned to Manor as an assistant principal, working with Mrs. Hinton. There, he worked with the scheduling as well as being in charge of the 11th and 12th grade curriculum, graduation, and he did a number of things around that. And he said it was a great learning experience for him. In 1983, he became the principal of West Haven Elementary School. While there, the school received the most improved school in the school district. After he was there 1 year, he was then sent to A.J. Mack Craddock Middle to bring the school back to a sense of normalcy. While at MAP, he was able to move the school back on track, and with the help of Dr. Victor and staff, it turned out to be a success. In 1987, he went to IC Norcom as principal. After a year, he was sent back to Manor as principal. He started the first ROTC program. Manor was the first school in Tidewater to have cameras, the first and only high school to receive the honor of being the most improved high school in the district. He consolidated Manor, Craddock, and Wilson. He attended Elizabeth City State University, where he got his BS, Old Dominion, where he got his master's degree, and Cass A Phi A. He's an Alpha Phi Alpha. And he was an assistant superintendent in Virginia Beach Middle School and the principal in a North Carolina school. And Mr. Wallace continues at this time to mentor teachers in the Portsmouth Public School system. And at this morning, it gives me great pleasure in saluting my friend, Lindell Wallace. And when you see Mr. Wallace around the Portsmouth school systems this week, I think he's at Churchland Primary today. Please reach out to him and thank him for all the great works that he has done for the students in the city of Portsmouth. Thank you so very much, team, for allowing me to get Mr. Wallace in at this time.
Yes.
So can we move on? I love Norcom to death, but I want to know, how did you get into this insurance business? And is there some collegiality? I know that Herbert Towns is also a Norcom graduate who's in the business as well. Is there some collegiality between you all? Do you all converse with each other, or how did you get started?
First of all, when I graduated from Frostburg State University, I graduated with a degree in business administration. And then I came to Portsmouth for graduated in 1977, spring of 77, and I worked with household finance for 3 years. And one of my college friends from Fredericksburg, when he graduated in 76. In the 70s, when I graduated, mid-70s forward, insurance was in affirmative action mode. You remember the old affirmative action days?
Right.
That's what started. Insurance companies, the insurance industry were saying, we do not have enough females or African Americans in our industry. It wasn't like, and I thought of the concept where we all thought the guy knocked on the door with the guy with the white shirt with all the pens in his top pocket and these wingtip shoes knocking on the door. And grandmother or your mother paid him, and he wrote down, gave you $2, and he put that in the book. So I will not name the companies because that's giving them advertisements. So anyway, companies they represented. So they were recruited, and my high school guy that I played back, he was 1 to 3 on the Frostburg basketball team. So once we graduated, I went to Northern Virginia, and he started working with State Farm, and he advised me of an opening, and there I was hired as a claim adjuster. That's what they were bringing us into entry-level positions, as a claim adjuster. So I was handling claims in Northern Virginia, and property damage claims, meaning physical damage, vehicle ran each other. We appraised the damage and paid for the claims. A year later, I was promoted to Fredericksburg as a field representative. I had a company car. I was dealing with a more advanced claims. There's that Norcom Pride in Education, more advanced claims. I was working with attorneys negotiating bodily injury and death claims for State Farm whenever our customer was at fault. And then 1982, 83, here we go again, affirmative action. State Farm is now recruiting agents. And I'm running this concept. I'm thinking this concept is that I'm going to knock on doors, insurance man, and I'm going to get a,
right.
someone going to pay me.
$25
But no, they tell me, no, this is more like a franchise concept.
Wow.
You have the opportunity to own this agency. You will hire your own team members. You're a 1099, meaning you are a independent contractor with State Farm. You're not an employee of State Farm. So you're independent. This is your agency. This is you grow the business, you develop the business, and then you are responsible, but you only contract to sell off of State Farm products. Mm-hmm. So I'm one of the pioneers. I think if I was Virginia, I think I'm 38 years. The African Americans, the most seasoned in Virginia with the most tenure. So I stepped out on faith. And of course, back in the day, they didn't give you accounts. So you faked it till you make it and you grind it till you find it. So I didn't have any, obviously I didn't have any financial backing. I didn't have any seed money. So it started just like from humble beginnings, building a business from scratch. They call it scratch agent and developing clientele. Interesting story how I got in Fredericksburg, because I was thinking about coming back to Tidewater. I was going to open my agency. I have friends there, I have family. I'll kill it in Tidewater. Not saying I would not have. But they recruited the guy at the time who was the manager of this area. He said, Buster, when you go to Tidewater, look at the growth. And then Fredericksburg is a bedroom residence for Washington, D.C.
Yes.
And he said, look at the growth in Fredericksburg. Right around that time, my former wife, had a daughter, Brandon, was born that same year. So we rode around Fredericksburg looking, and Fredericksburg was growing at least everywhere I saw subdivision coming. So I had to make a decision. Did I want to go back to Tidewater, stay in Fredericksburg? And I said, well, I think the growth there's a great deal of growth here. So I stayed in Fredericksburg, and I don't regret that. I mean, at some point I thought about you're only 2 hours from home, out from DC. And so that's how it became with insurance. And consequently, my brother Fraser Nitty worked for State Farm for a while. Okay. My daughter Brandy, who's from IC Norfolk class of 01, she's a Greyhound. She worked with State Farm for 8 years. Now she's in Spain. And now my brother Fraser, whose son is working with State Farm. I think Russell may be class of 07, 08. All of us are Greyhounds. Wow. When I give them names, I attach the class. All of us are Greyhounds. And so now we have he and I still in insurance. So that's where that insurance connection came. But what I like about it, more than just owning a insurance agency, because the many tentacles that it offers, we have so many tentacles, it's just more than insurance. I mean, property and casualty, we do financial services. I have people plan for retirement, and I just became a rocket mortgage broker, and we do annuities, IRAs, and it's just so many different things that insurance expands. So that's how that industry became, I came in that industry. Very interesting industry. We find that it's inflation proof and pandemic proof, because we always say everyone has to have it and we have license to sell it.
That's true. And what advice would you give to students at Norcom now, should they want to enter that field? Is it as lucrative for them at this time as it was for you when you entered the field? Always lucrative.
As a matter of fact, I would tell them to connect with the local insurance agent. And it's so lucrative that I would say that we have an agent aspirant program. And that program is that I have an agent aspirant program, and we have with State Farm agents. So can I advance to college students? First of all, IC Norcom students consider being a summer intern, okay?
Yes.
Some of the State Farm agents hire summer interns working for the summer or summer job. My niece, who matriculates at Virginia State, IC Norcom graduate. Her twin, she worked for me from just working in college from for about a year. But I would tell them to connect with the State Farm agent. And then we have an agent aspirant program where people who aspire to be State Farm agents, I have a program where they go, once they graduate from college, and they train. I have a curriculum, they train and become a State Farm agent, sitting in all the chairs. And I just launched a female African-American in December. She just opened her own agency.
Oh, good.
So there are opportunities, if you would like to become a State Farm agent, to work in a State Farm agent office as an aspirant. It's like an 18-month to 25-month program to 4 years. I just finished helping my territory write the curriculum, or the career path for that, because we're always recruiting State Farm agents, and people have the opportunity to own their own business with a name brand. You don't have to build the brand. The brand is there, and attaching your name to that brand. So there's a great opportunity for that.
Great, great.
Yeah, before we go on to the next spot, let me get a little commercial break in so we can see if we can pay some bills here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and then so for those folks out there in Electron land, if you like what you're hearing and you want to be part of history, meaning we want to expand this program, you can send a donation or look at becoming a partner with us through a sponsorship, and you can send whatever you want to P.O. Box 7664, Portsmouth, Virginia 23707. And we also have an email address, and just to give us a shout out, tell us how you're doing, and Slim will give that to you.
And also, if you have some suggestions as to what you would like to happen on this show on Monday mornings, you may send that to us as well.
Yes. And then
email address is portsmouthcoffeetalk@yahoo.com.
Yes, I know I messed you up just then. But Buster, I got two things for you here.
Okay, Colonel.
Yeah. So when you're talking about they wanted to close all the black schools.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a man, I'm all about policy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at that, what you just did is summarize institutional racism written in policy that exists today.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's part of our social justice struggles we have today. But one of the things that you mentioned a couple times is affirmative action.
Mm-hmm.
You look at how folks have, some in this country have gotten away and use affirmative action as a negative word.
Exactly.
And but people don't understand affirmative action is just not for us.
Correct.
There's more white women that are benefactors of affirmative action than there are of Black and brown people. But the other side does not recognize that.
Correct.
And they vote, and they also vote and talk about they really don't understand the full scope of affirmative action, what we just talked about.
Carolyn, you know what? I'm not sure. I wouldn't say that they don't realize that. I think that's purposely used. Look the other way, because I would say that because even being a part of that affirmative action, why weren't our sisters part of that?
Mm-hmm.
Because I always looked at when we were bringing us in, it was minorities, and then there were of course, back in the Hispanic wasn't as the Hispanic population wasn't as inroads in society as we have now. So look at the sisters still that the African American women, they weren't put in those positions.
Mm-hmm.
They were, like I said, the Caucasian women were given those positions because of affirmative action. Well, sometimes when they got the African American women, they said we got 2 for 1.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a 2 for 1 if they put one African American woman. Then we got a minority, and we got a woman. But then they would put 2 or 3 of those in that position after the white women because of the fact, okay, now we affirm this affirmative action. So if you look at the corporate level, the boards, we should be 1 for 1 for every Caucasian that was given that opportunity. It should be either brother or sister there, but you didn't see the sisters there.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that the African American woman was left behind even in all of that.
Yeah.
That's even deeper.
Yes.
I feel the African American woman was left behind and all didn't get the opportunities because they were recruited. Now there were African American women who came into the insurance industry, but not in the pace or the alarming numbers of the male, and then the white women that came in.
Yeah.
Or either sometimes they bring Hispanic in. So I think that's, like you said, that affirmative action was used as negative also.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to interject that with that, we talked about this and back and forth, that I boast also the fact that even though we boycotted, we boycotted, but today, and someone brought to my attention, today, to this day, there are only 2 schools, you may have mentioned this on your show, there are only 2 schools in the state of Virginia, and mostly throughout the length and breadth of the United States, that were African-American, named after African-Americans, and was a segregated total African-American school, I see Norcom and Booker T are the only two schools that are still high schools to this day.
Exactly.
The rest of them are middle schools and no longer exist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
When I tell people my school is 100 and plus years old, they're like, what, your high school? I say, yes. So you said that, Colonel. I just want to make that, put that point out, put that point in, and put that, make sure that, make that point. Thanks for allowing me that moment.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, you know what? And then, so now we make another point, but on the national side, and we've just finished, well, closed out one of our darkest periods in American history, when Mr. Trump left office. And we look at his cabinet, and we look at affirmative action, he had his one in his cabinet, he had Ben Carson, his one. So he says, I've integrated my cabinet. And Republican Party has their one, Uncle Ben as a senator down there in Scott down there in South Carolina. But you have to look at the policies that they have that are anti-Black and brown people. And they had 4 years to do that. And we're still suffering from a lot of the policies that were put out by these people that wanted to destroy our democracy. I just had to add that in.
Well, as you talk about that, I know that is a great point, excellent point. But and when we look at our society, and that was that 4 years administration was really a challenging time, and I think that we have to, as African Americans, we have to not have to. The rose glasses should be off now.
Yes.
This is America. We're in the 60s and 70s. We're just saying something, a repeat of the 60s and 70s in a different fashion. They just look different. If it's new to the younger generation, it's different. We saw this in the 70s and 60s. Right. So how do we combat some of these discrimination and discrepancies? And going back to Norcom, that pride, educating ourselves. What can we do? Educating ourselves, first of all. And then things like this platform, but ownership. When you ask that question, Leah, where can we own, like ownership, maybe in your business?
Right.
Then we can make decisions. Then if not ownership, leadership, where we put ourselves in a position where we can make decisions. Because I agree with the late, great Vernon Jordan. Influence is better than power. Very, very few people get power. But when you can have influence, you can do more.
Yes.
You can do more with influence, because most of us not going to get power, but we can get influence. So put ourselves in a position where it's business ownership, where it's leadership in your profession, where you can influence and you can make some decisions on who is promoted next, or who's the person that I'm going to choose for that. When we put ourselves in that position, we raised on the economical scale, because you look at the economical scale of finances, we're next to the Hispanic, which is the lowest. So how do we raise that? And everybody, I understand, can't own a business. Everyone may not be able to be in a position to have a talk show, but we can, as we said, excel where we are to become the best we can, so we can influence and we can bring others along. But that's what the journey is about, bringing others along. How do we bring others in? How do we lift as we climb?
Yes.
We have to lift as we climb. We need to, I think not asking for things, but doing them with the opportunities.
Right.
But you know what? Lift as we climb.
Correct.
The sad thing is, now we talk about all the pride that existed welcome back in the 60s and 70s. That pride seems to have dissipated now, because the kids are not taught their history. The individuals who can come in and influence some of the decisions the kids are making don't seem to be invited back into the school as it was back in the day. So what can we do? I mean, the students need to hear, not only at Norcom, I'm talking about all students need to hear about these opportunities that are available to them. Is there anyone going into the high schools, talking to the high school seniors to let them know that this avenue is open for them? You know, it's not the old insurance agent, as you say, who went and got that $25 every week, but the avenues for their opportunity to own a business.
Correct.
You know, what are we doing? What are we doing to prepare these students? I don't think we should wait till they get to the college. They need to be thinking about it now while they're in high school, if it's something they have an interest in.
Yeah, I have an idea where they can start right here with the Alumni Association, tapping into our resources. Now, I mean, myself, we know, okay, we get understanding the profession of because the length and breadth of this country, this world, we have IC Norcom graduates and fill in those positions. So how do we tap into that and bring that back to IC Norcom students?
Yes.
Connecting with the teachers. Okay, we want one young lady asked me, and it never happened before the pandemic, wanted me to come to talk to her class. I think Daphne Worrell in S.H. Clark to talk to her students African American History Month. So that's how we get that information back to our students. We have to bring that back to them and let them know, okay, this is a profession, and have those teachers come back. I mean, I'm asked frequently to talk to the students here in the Fredericksburg area. So I think that's one way we can start to get that information back to the student, where that can be part of the Alumni Association. I'm not giving you another assignment, but
we need to do all we can do. We need to do all we can do to help these students.
But tapping into the alumni that, I mean, radio should not only own a business, some out there may want to be a radio show host. Oprah Winfrey started somewhere. So I think by tapping into the, connecting with the alumni and the different professions and bringing those back, even if there's a rally, even, why couldn't we have a, I don't know, why can't we have a, what we call it, a recruiting day, or have a speed recruiting day, where have a day on Saturday at the school or somewhere where all the alumni come back, different professions, and students can come and just talk to them.
I love that.
Things like that. Why can't we do that?
I love that.
Things we can do.
I think
we can do those things. That's low cost. You can have it. And we have it at the college. Have it. They call it speed. They call it. We call it speed recruitment. Okay. Where they have all the alumni in the auditorium, and for 2 minutes you go around. You set at tables, and for 2 minutes they come around and talk to every person that's there. They bring the resume. Not their resume. They can ask about the profession. You got some guest speakers. That's how we can do that. That's how we can do that. I'm involved a lot with recruiting in this area, involved with the students a lot, and I do a lot of, and you know, that's what I always tell my mother. I said, Mom, I wish they would use my resources, and I haven't made that known. Please, I'm
it's known now, believe me.
But the connection that I have in this area, the connection I have that have so much to give back to the students, I would love to have the opportunity to have to give that back to the students.
Well, honey, I would take that to the alumni president right away, and that's something that we need to activate right away. Not yesterday, but right now. Okay.
And I'll be happy to talk off sidebar conversation anyway about that.
I'll call you. I'll give you a call.
And Buster, too, I think what both of y'all are saying about the alumni, we have to do that first, but we also have to make sure we go into those schools where it's not all African American, because parts of our country, we have to start with those young white kids too, and making sure they know what we contributed, to society, because the change has to start somewhere, and
it does.
It's deep rooted, with the race system and everything like that. In order for them to, and a lot of them don't get a chance to see people like you, Buster.
Exactly.
And one thing that's very interesting, I listened to Michelle Obama, something we need to do more of, and I agree with her. Tell our story.
Exactly.
And she's very, very big on that. And that we're hearing her now. I do that more. I tell my story. And we need to tell our story more. Right. Because they're kids, like you said, Anthony, if you allow me a selfish moment, I don't tell my story from a standpoint of a boisterous story. I want some kid to know. When I put a billboard up in Fredericksburg, I want some kid that look like me can say, I can be there one day.
Exactly.
I mean, a kid that came from Lincoln Park, public housing, from Portsmouth to IC Norcom to Frostburg, And I look at the things that the blessings been bestowed upon me. What my brother Nitty and my brother Ricky, who with the dreams we had and the jokes we had, and Pookie Jackson and Bucket Thiers and all of us who did growing up playing the jokes we had, the dreams we had, and what we were going to be when we become later on, like Libra Coca, all the dreams we had. And there's some shout out friend, but and how I look at that. But then I look at sometimes I tell people I'm a long way from Lincoln Park.
Mm-hmm.
I never in my wildest dream, I look in the mirror, thank God the blessing been bestowed upon me where I can own my own business. Here I am now helping former NBA players with their finances.
Right.
When we didn't have, we didn't have a checkbook in the household. Mm-hmm. And then the many tentacles of my business, not only from the standpoint of helping people with retirement, investing money, but also the other part of Buster Nelson, owning real estate, owning property. In a mortgage broker. It's not about me boasting about what I've done, but this, I tell some kid, you can do the same thing too. We didn't have any of the tools that's available now.
That's right.
Lee, I want to say something also, is that I think what we have to also, today's society, and it's not their fault, I think our kids have become comfortable.
Too comfortable.
But what do they aspire? Think about it. They have cars, they have clothes.
Nothing to work.
I mean, those are the things they have. What do they aspire?
Work anything.
Yes, but we have to teach them that we need to get things that grows and not goes.
Exactly.
We need to move from a consumer. We need to move from being consumers to being the person who sells the product. Let's not always be the one who buy the product. Let's sometimes be the one who sell the product. And I think that kind of dialogue like we having now is very helpful and very instrumental. With the brain power we have with this 4 of us and other alumni out there, I think who really would be for lead the charge. And this is where it starts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'll just another thing, and the Colonel probably agree with me. I think he talks about this, is teaching us how to create that generational wealth. And that's one thing over the years we've been lacking, and it's always been in other communities where they create that generational wealth and pass it down. It's not like you want to create something where your generations below you are lazy because they know it's coming, but you want to be able to create that generational wealth so they can have that leg up. But you also have to teach them, like you said, how to fight and how to earn their way. But to creating that generational wealth. And I think that's one of the things that you do, you said, with one of the tentacles that branches off what you do now.
And you know the thing, I teach financial literacy. Mm-hmm. I teach financial literacy. Yes. And even State Farm has programs. We start with even how to budget, things like that. But Slim, I can't agree with you more. I'm all about generational wealth. One of my slogans, live, laugh, love, and leave a legacy. I'm about generational wealth. And exactly right. You look at the Kennedy, the Rockefeller, the Vanderbilts, anyone you named it, the names, the generational wealth. That's what you're right. It's about creating that generational wealth. How can we help? And it doesn't have, sometimes it doesn't have to be material. It can be generational wealth mentally.
Right.
To aspire to do that.
Knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Knowledge. Exactly.
It's a lifestyle.
Yeah. Exactly, Colonel. It's a lifestyle.
It is a lifestyle. And how you live it. And if you can dream it, you can live it. And you just have to have a plan to put it in place and to make it work.
And working with young people, they have so much the potential with this technology society. I mean, admittedly, here we are. I think on my PC, I couldn't get my audio going. And the first thing Slim said, "Do you have a 3-year-old around?" And then of course, Lil was frozen out. And of course, we had to jump back. So here we are. What these? I call it seasoned snow on the roof. Seasoned members. We're dealing with technology, and we had someone in this in the next generation. You can't do this. So of course, so I have a technology person on my team. I mean, this is a technology specialist. So how do we let them know the things they use every day? How can you make that an income stream?
Right.
Because you have it in your hand.
Right. Yes. Yes.
You are so right. I tell you, and I've told you, as I mentioned earlier, when we were talking before we came on air, that's why the Alumni Association is so thankful for the younger people who are now coming in and assisting us, because technologically we were not where we needed to be. But you need these younger people to come in to help you with that technology piece.
You know, Lee, I'm glad to hear that, because that bridges the Alumni Association to the next generation.
It does.
And what I would challenge the Alumni Association also, listen to their ideas, know how radical they may be, because they know what the next generation want and need. We can't get too hell bent or head stuck on the fact that we always done it this way it should be. They look at a different, because most of my team, my staff are millennials, and it's totally different, like you said, but they know the millennials are totally different and beyond. They are totally different. They see they live in a different world, and they can connect us with the new world. Now, they do need our guidance. They do need our knowledge. They need to learn that. But I think that's great that you're bringing them in and allow them to be a part of the Alumni Association. And not only that, but listening and accepting their ideas also. So I'm sure you guys are that.
Oh, yeah, we're doing that. But I think it's amazing you talk about young and older generations working together, because so often we have younger generations to come in who want to just wipe off the seasoned individuals, as opposed to realizing that you can gain something from being in their presence and working with them, as well as the senior can gain something for them as young people, because they teach us things that we have not learned. But still, you cannot throw one off without one can't make it without the other. We need to come together and work together.
I always tell young folks, you can't put an old head on young shoulder. You can't put a young head on old shoulder.
Thank you.
Wear the head on the show you're supposed to wear.
Wear it. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, we have to get away from that us against them, because it's not about that. It's about together. And I don't want to end on this note, Buster, but I just wanted to ask you about this as you up in Fredericksburg and you look over the past year, especially over the years, and looked at the crime rate in the city of Portsmouth. And when you really think about it, you go back to our days, some of those same things were going on, but like you mentioned earlier, without the social media, a lot of those things can be sort of highlighted much quicker than it was back in the day when we were coming up, because we definitely know it was shootings going on, and we knew the guys who carried the guns. Guys were, and but you look back, being away from home, and I know a lot of people that from here look back because they contact me and say, what's going on in Portland? And I tell them sometimes, well, what's going on all over, but it's especially concerning to them because it's their hometown. And everything is highlighted around what the crime is doing, and not so much about the good things that a lot of our students are doing. And when you look back and see that, when you look at the news and see Portsmouth, what goes through your mind, and how does that make you feel? Does it make you?
It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart because, as you said, Portsmouth, this crime is not anything new in Portsmouth. Obviously, in any city, but at the alarming rate, because in times like these, when we go on with African-American male, every time he leaves the house, his life is in danger.
Exactly.
First of all, there's enough opposition that's eliminating us. I'm not saying only African-American. There's enough opposition eliminating us now. And we are now doing it more rate to each other.
Exactly.
And that's the first thing. Secondly, I look at from the standpoint that we are wiping out generations as we talk about legacy, knowledge, when another person is killed. I often say if a person kills another person, two people dies.
Exactly.
The person that was killed dies, and the person that's incarcerated for the rest of their lives. Two men die when someone kills someone.
That's right.
Two men die.
That's right.
And that hurts. Because we can't lose, we can't lose any soldier. We need all the soldiers out of African-American male we can, because when you look at the rate of single parent households and in the positions we are in now, so we are eliminating each other. So there are two people who don't have to compete for that, other races don't have to compete for that position as another job or that business owner. So it breaks my heart, because I think that Portsmouth is a city that really the pride, what it stands, and when I see that, and it goes like we're going, it's a safe city. You can walk all over the city. I tell my daughter that we can walk anywhere in Portsmouth. But now you have to approach it with caution and care. So it's very troubling. It's very troubling to see that. Slim, that's a great question. It's very troubling, and I'm hoping and prayerful that something will happen, that this will reach those who are in that life, they can see the hurt and what it's costing not only families, but it's costing our race and costing our people.
Exactly.
And we certainly hope that conversations like this will bring people together that should be talking, because we always talk about it. It's going to take a collective effort, of people in different areas, policing, Commonwealth attorney, our clergy. It's going to take an effort of all of that in order for us to sort of approach this thing with a solution-based ideas. And we can't just keep going against each other, which you see a lot of politics gets thrown in there, and people, we got to look at the big picture and think about the future. And hopefully programs like this and with you doing your talks and everything, that we'll sort of see reality for what it is,
Well, I promise today forward, I make myself available for any such forums or any avenue that I can, whether it's financially or vocally. I want to know you have my full support, and please utilize any of my resources or your resources.
Thank you. Thank you.
All my resources are your resources, the connections in any way. My resources are your resources. I mean, I give to the Fredericksburg community. Why can't I would love to give back to Portsmouth. I would love to Portsmouth because I am here because of Portsmouth. I'm a product of Portsmouth. I would love to give back in any way. And my family would say the same thing. My family members, any connections we have, please utilize my resources. Don't keep me a secret. Please don't keep me a secret.
Well, that's why we've been talking about this for years, Buster, to do something like this. And I thought with this format was even better to have you on than what we were talking about earlier doing. We were talking about getting together and doing something, but this format gives us a little bit more exposure, gives you a little bit more exposure. And we will continue. We hope to have you back. You
invite me back. The invitations, I'm available whenever you like to have me on. Can I have my family know I'm not an early riser. Can I have a 9:30? I'm just kidding. Can I ask one question? Leah, can you shout out the hashtag for the the Alumni Association Cash App, please?
Oh, the Alumni Association Cap App is Cash App $. I see Norcom. Let me give you the right thing. Wait a minute. Just 1 minute.
I see Norcom alumni.
Yeah, I see Norcom alumni. That's it.
And then, Slim, did you talk about, as we talked previously, I know we're running out of time, I guess. Could we talk about what it costs in cumulative? I mean, I think that's very important because there are people on
$25 a year, $25 a year for membership. Lifetime membership, if I'm not mistaken, is $400.
Okay, $25 a year, $400 lifetime, but you can pay a cumulative if
you can pay your lifetime membership in installments of $50 a year.
Okay, I want to make sure we repeat that. We got some shout outs here, so let's get it for the. So Cash App, I see Norcom, right?
I see Norcom alumni.
Alumni.
Yes.
Okay, and $25 a year, $400 lifetime, and you can do $50 cumulative to $400. Okay.
Exactly.
I see Norcom class of 73. I challenge you to join. I'm going to cash out mine now.
Yeah.
And listen now, you all were the strongest supporters of the walk on Saturday. Class of 1973.
Just like a tree standing by the waters, we shall not be moved.
We shall not be moved.
Yeah. And want to let everybody get a last minute talking there before we end. But I remember that thing. I talked about this before, Buster, how at Norcom before the basketball team, before every game, we went to the middle of the floor and prayed.
Yes.
What are we praying that we'll win? I said, no, we praying for the other team.
Like that.
But right after our prayer, we would say, one for all and all for one, victory will be done.
Yes.
And religiously we did that, and maybe next time we can talk about how much fun we had on the bus.
Oh yeah, we did.
But
I think we need. That's another conversation. We should come back for that. That would be fun. That would be fun. I would love to come back and talk about that.
But at this time, any of the hosts, you have any last minute comments or anything? I know you've been sitting patiently, Tommy, but when these greyhounds start talking, it's kind of hard to get in there.
No, it's all good. It did me warmth to listen to IC Norcom graduates and alumni. And it's part of history that I wish these young folks.
Your wife. Your
Yeah.
wife is a grad.
Yeah. And she's a IC Norcom grad. But it's a part of our history, and we can never forget our history. Because if we forget our history, then we'll repeat some of the mistakes that we made in the past. And so
exactly.
So you have to know about history. And then but Buster, I'd like to thank you for everything that you've done in the past and what you're doing in the future. And thank you.
Thank you.
And Buster, I truly want to thank you. And I tell you, this time went by too quickly for me because I had some other questions I wanted to ask you. But I am going to talk to the president of the Alumni Association, Lynn Browley, about the speed recruitment. I think that is an excellent idea. And also tell your class that they can make their payments on PayPal as well to IC Norcom High School. So PayPal is available. But I once again say, thank you so very much. This has been very enlightening. And I just look forward to all the things that we can do working together to make it better for the students here in Portsmouth, Virginia. Thank you so much, Buster.
Thank you, Slim. Thank you, Colonel. Thank you, Leah, for having me here today. It was good to come back home. It's always good to come back home. Walk down memory lane. It's always good to come back home. And continue success with this coffee talk. And I'll make sure sometime I'll tune in. I promise I will.
And love that Greyhound jersey you have on.
Oh, I had to wear. And P-Town, can you see that close up? Great Greyhound and P-Town.
And wait a minute. And then you got to get your shirt that says raised by Portsmouth, but made by Norcom.
Okay, I like that. Okay. I think I've seen that on the website.
Yes, you can see that on the website.
Do they come in a large, tall?
They do, and I tell you, they do indeed. And contact me if you can't find it. Contact me, and I'll tell you how to get one. Okay.
Well, I make sure we meet a T-shirt or a large, tall.
Okay.
Leah, I get your information because I know I get one from my mother. She loved her Greyhound gear. She loved her Greyhound, all the family. I make sure we get one. My daughter also.
Okay.
Hey, Buster, one other thing. What year did you go into the IC Norcom Hall of Fame?
I think it was 2013. I think it was 2013. My brother and I went in together.
I'm still waiting for my letter for the most bench time, but
well, I tell you what, I will nominate you then. We got the nomination, so we'll nominate you.
Time in history. But if in case somebody wants to contact you for either business or to have you come and speak, give some information how someone can contact you.
Sure, Buster at busternelson.net. Buster at busternelson.net. So they can contact me there. That's my email address. And when I send you guys my cell phone number on the sidebar, but they can contact me there. Anyone to contact me at that email address. Or you can go to my website. That's my website also, but Buster at busternelson.net. Please contact me and any not only for coffee talk, but any other endeavors that's going on in the city of Portsmouth. Please utilize. Don't keep me a secret and pull me in, please. I mean, I believe that service is the rent we pay to occupy space here on earth, and I make sure I want to pay my rent for somebody to pay for me.
I agree to that wholeheartedly.
Yes.
And to your daughter in Barcelona, Spain.
Yes, Brandy, class of 01. She lives in
Barcelona.
She owns her own business too. She has two businesses also. She owns two businesses also. She graduated from ODU degree in Spanish. She teaches Spanish second language, and she's a marketing consultant also. So
wonderful. She's
entrepreneurship also.
Another great Greyhound.
Yes.
Buster, I appreciate that, teammate, and we'll see you again. And thanks everyone who was watching on Facebook Live. And join us next week as our guest will be the Honorable Senator L. Louise Lucas.
Okay.
That's going to be
interesting. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, everyone. Greyhounds, go Greyhounds. I see
We'll
Dog,
be
roof, 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 dog.
go ahead.
Roof, roof, roof.
Shoo Wally Wally. Shoo Wally Wally.
Everybody like the, oh, no, that's my favorite cheer. Everybody like the shoe
The
Wally
Shoo Wally Wally.
Yeah.
The girl asked me Saturday. She said, "What's a Shoo Wally Wally?" I said, "Who cares? We've done it so long."
Hey, Brian.
Everybody like the shoe Wally
That's right. That's
Listen,
right.
Again, thank you guys, Carolyn. Thank you, O.
All right.
Slim, and thank you, Leah. Make it a great day on purpose.
I think this has been our longest show thus far.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't want to
all.
set in the records. Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah,
Thanks,
you are.
I'll leave the meeting now.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Let me stop the recordings. Stop live recordings.
in our future, in our
Go ahead in a minute. He was my teammate at IC North.
Wait a minute.
Uh,
Let me stop. Stop recording.